fight commentary breakdowns. So, we have a 1928 clip courtesy of Sven Hedin. He was a Swedish explorer that explored a lot of China, Chinese Turkestan, Central Asia, Persia, etc. And so he's documenting his journey here in Inner Mongolia. So back then, the Mongolians and the Manchus ruled over China together for a while. So for a while, all of Mongolia, not just Inner Mongolia, all of Mongolia was all part of China. Eventually, the Mongolia we know today fell under Russian influence. So that's why this is considered Inner Mongolia, even though at the time, all of this was Mongolia. This is 1928. That guy right there is Wang Sunit. And look at the kowtowing. So interesting. We'll get to the martial arts soon, I promise you. Look at the tea drinking ceremony. So, I looked up how you say his actual name. His name is Dilmashuk Dongrup. Sorry, my Mongolian audience, I did not pronounce it right. But Sunit's probably the name that Sven gave him or something. So here they go. Here's the Mongolian festivities. This Sven guy is very interesting because he really explored a lot of China that even the Chinese sort of historians and archaeologists didn't know at the time. Like, he found that the Great Wall went all the way to the regions of China that were under Uyghur rule. So the Great Wall went very far, man. But anyways, here we see the Mongolian wrestling. The title card said it's just leg work. It is definitely not leg work. There's a lot when it comes to wrestling. There's hand fighting. There's body positioning. There's head, right? Where you position your head. Leverage, how you leverage the opponent's weight. Your hips, right? Creating openings, etc. So Sven obviously was not a martial artist, so he couldn't watch this in a way to really kind of oogle at it. So, like, when I watch martial arts clip, I'm oogling at it, kind of like when men oogle at women. I just get a hard-on watching cool martial arts. So I assume that's Sunit Wang. And, most people in China know that Shuaijiao is pretty formidable, right? Came from the Mongols, and most northern regions in China have probably seen this. The Mongols were no joke, and a lot of the Chinese Shuaijiao martial arts, I think, had influence from the Mongolian folk wrestling. So, what's really interesting, I don't know what her deal is, how she found this information, but our man Sunit, however you say his name in Mongolian, was jailed in 1950 after the communists took over, and he spent 13 years in jail before he was finally allowed to return to Inner Mongolia, and he kind of was one of the people to run like a literary center, maybe a historical museum. And I think the reason they did that was because it says here he was very well read. He studied Confucian texts. So, is a scholarly dude, so they gave him this position after torturing him for 13 years. Like, yeah, go back to your grasslands in Mongolia, help preserve some culture. It's pretty interesting, but I'm glad Sven caught some of this. I wish he caught more of the martial arts. I think to him, people fascinated him a lot. To him, he's just documenting the whole journey. And to him, martial arts is just a small part of it. So if I were to document this, I would probably spend a lot more time on the martial arts. But here we are, 1928, Mongolian wrestling. Shuaijiao, you could call it. Inner Mongolia. So here, this is 1949, when the communists took over. This is in Beijing. And a Soviet journalist recorded this. After all, the Soviet Union and China were chill bros, brothers of another mother. You could say the Soviet Union and China were brothers of a German mother, right? Under communism. So they were chill. So of course the Soviets were invited when the communists took over, and this Soviet journalist documented this guy doing what's called a 3-section staff. When I did Kung Fu, I used to call these triple-sided nunchucks, I believe, and my Kung Fu pals will always get mad at me. They're like, Jerry, it's called a 3-section staff, not nunchuck. So, this old man obviously looks like he's used these 3-section staff things for many years, although I doubt you could really fight people with them. It's very much like a Peking opera fu type of thing. But it's still very cool to see this stuff. And as things started falling apart and culture started getting cleansed under communism, I really doubt that this guy lived long. I'm not saying that he got persecuted. I'm just saying he's already old, and seeing his country fall apart like that, I'm sure it's bad for his heart. So see some of the really cool entertainment stuff, China at the time. And so look at that, all the little handicrafts and stuff like that. But I find this really cool that we see some of this stuff. I mean, this stuff was obviously not developed by the Chinese Wushu Association, right? This stuff existed way before China standardized Kung Fu into Wushu. So this is really cool. And I got to give a shout out also to this channel, Bing Xue. I don't know how to say, I don't know what tone this is. Is it Tong or Tong? I don't know. But it's apparently a Chinese historian. Moving chronologically, this is from 1972 from a guy named Alexander. This was a tournament he organized in Hong Kong. So we can see where the Kung Fu went to. So I don't know what type of style. Looks like Chai Li Fu maybe. Chai Li Foot as they call it. So I like they're doing some sparring. That's pretty cool, man. Dude, look at that, the little kids are sparring. And little Bagua sparring. Boom, look at that kick. Some of this could be more compliance drills, but no, I think this is some sparring. Look at that. So, of course, there's obligatory board breaking, and I'll show you some stuff in the beginning. There was, I'm turn this off, katas, taolu as they say. But what really fascinates me is to see them actually spar like that. No jabs and crosses and stuff like that, but whatever. Moving chronologically, 1988. This came out a few years after Shaolin Temple, Jet Li's movie. That was like the Kung Fu modern birth. Shaolin Temple, when Jet Li went in there to film the 80s, early 80s, 70s. He started in the 70s, 80s. Shaolin Temple was so ransacked and destroyed by the Cultural Revolution that there was an abbot, there was a doorman, and maybe a cleaner. So there was only 3 people in the Shaolin Temple. No Kung Fu at all existed. So every Kung Fu you see in Shaolin now is not the original Shaolin Kung Fu. So this is 1988, about 6 years after the movie Shaolin Temple came out. And this was the Kung Fu that existed in Shaolin at the time. Let us see how good the Kung Fu is. Again, none of this is even authentically Shaolin, but this is when people try to capitalize on Jet Li's Shaolin Temple. You know, so all these like Kung Fu masters went to Shaolin to try to be like, yeah, learn Kung Fu here because this was what influenced us. Is any of this shit good? No, not at all. Even when I saw this, when I was little, I was like, this is bullshit. This is like slandering Shaolin Temple, guys. But this is the truth. This was the real Shaolin Temple. There was nothing. So the first people to bring Kung Fu back were nobodies, were bullshit. They can't even do this stuff well. The filmmakers put this on camera, captured the fact that all the Shaolin Kung Fu shit was whack in the 80s. So, look at that, man. Like, all my Kung Fu pals could do the sword better than him. Look at this guy doing I think he's doing a 3-section staff, man. Obviously, he just arrived at the school because he hadn't even shaved his head yet. But compare this with the 3-section staff guy that we saw earlier, 1949. Who's better? Whose quote-unquote Shaolin thing is more authentic? So, that move he did, the little spinning move is called a butterfly. You see that move a lot. So, this guy's doing a spear. He was the only guy I liked. His spear form was pretty cool. But, you know, his stances are very low. He's obviously trained in kind of the performance tradition. So, guys, this is the real Shaolin, man. All that current Shaolin stuff, you know, it's mass marketed. a lot of these good Kung Fu masters eventually went to Shaolin Temple, but the real legit Shaolin Kung Fu was destroyed long time ago, probably in the Ming or Qing dynasty. So I'm sorry, people. I know there's this mythos that the Shaolin Temple still has legit Kung Fu, but any legit Kung Fu is not real Shaolin Kung Fu anymore. Because if it were real, this freaking documentary would have captured some of that. But all this documentary captured was the first batch of money-making people that wanted to capitalize on Jet Li's movie. And all these guys sucked at their Kung Fu. Okay, guys, fight commentary breakdowns out. Let me know what you think of this historical footage. Which ones were your favorite? Which ones were your least favorite? Send me more clips if you guys want more. I found all of these myself. I actually own this movie, Dragons of the Orient. The other stuff I found myself randomly. So if you guys own stuff or film stuff, let me know. Send it to me. I will do my usual Jerry analysis.